Lately I've been kind of referring to all greatswords as just chopping machines. Because while greatswords are my favorite class of weapon, their running attacks just kind of suck. Like they're just not very good. Their R2s vary. Sometimes they're quite good with like the poking R2s. On like this particular greatsword, which is the Executioner's greatsword, the R2s are just slower, longer, I guess wider chops. They're just not very useful at all, which is why you rarely see me go for any of them at all. Weapon arts kind of have the same problem as well, in that, you know, some of them are really, really useful, like the Flamberge. I love being able to hit people for a massive amount of counter damage. I really didn't like this weapon art until I realized its uses. Because it's a stomp, but it's a stomp like chop, and I thought that was useless until I realized it knocks people that far back. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, this is my new favorite thing, is people getting knocked off of vast heights with this stomping weapon art. I know it's called like stomp and then like spin slash, but this is really just stomp chop to me. And since this is the chopping machine, I feel like that's pretty fitting for an Executioner's greatsword. Indulge me for a little bit while I continue to talk about this weapon. I feel like it's one of the weapons in Dark Souls 3 that they really nailed, and it's kind of the epitome of one of the many reasons why I like weapons in these games, because it kind of tells a story about the area that it was, you know, found in, by all the different things that it does, right? It does strike damage because it's like this old, worn Executioner sword, right? That the sharpness of the blade has been worn down until now, at this point it's just basically a club. It regains FP for every enemy that is killed, because it remembers all the different lives it took when it was in use. It has all this like ancient writing on it to also kind of convey how old this weapon is. So there's all this effort in detail to this one weapon that's just kind of sitting in a graveyard, and it kind of just points out exactly what was going on with that graveyard, what was happening. That Phantom's busy getting mad at me for not coming and fighting 3 people at once. But anyways, that's just kind of like From Software's storytelling at its peak. You know, weapons with all this detail to them sitting around in areas that like tells you something about the area. And besides all that, it's super functional. Like, this is a greatsword that does strike damage. Like, how fucking useful is that? It can be buffed. Anyways, this person's gonna try to come up and contest my choke point, which is gonna result in them falling to their death. Because this is a deceptively great choke point that if the person you're fighting tries to roll laterally, they fall off a cliff and die. So now it's time for the Phantom, who's been doing gestures this entire time, to learn a slightly different lesson in verticality. A similar lesson to the one we saw earlier in this video, but also a lesson in what weapons cause different kinds of knockdowns. Alright, into the pit you go. Goodbye. I think it's interesting to me that Phantoms who really have the ability to kick your ass are far less likely to give you a point down preemptively. And it's very, very typically cocky Phantoms with large weapons that don't really know how to use those weapons effectively are the ones that I see giving a lot of point downs. Well before they've won a fight or even gotten close to winning a fight. Anyways, this host has a lot of latency and is using the washing pole, which is an extremely annoying weapon to fight when that person you're fighting is very passive and late. But switching over to the hand axe and spear lets me deal with that range with my own range. So that's about it from you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.